Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Upset Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Latasha Hewitt, and we're excited about today's episode. We hope you are too. We're ready to upset the fruit basket on yet another topic. And I'm going to invite my fellow co-host here with me now. What's up, crew? Upsetters?
Hey, hey, hey.
All right, all right. And today we're gonna be tackling a subject that we've been hearing about for a little while now. Obviously, we've been in this pandemic for almost a year, and of course, the hope of this great vaccine arose. And there's been a lot of controversy surrounding it. And, we just wanted to take the time to kind of just dive into kind of what we think. Now, and I preface it by saying what we think, because nothing we say here is any official recommendation. This is not us telling you to do as we do, but we just want to have kind of the dialogue that same kind of dialogue you're probably having with your friends on Facebook or in your own conversations. And so we're just going to jump right into this thing here. This vaccine, guys, in your opinion, do we have enough information to make an informed decision about taking the vaccine, in your opinion? In other words, would you take it?
Well, I know, to answer your first question, do we have enough information? I think we have a lot of information, but as far as I'm concerned, it's really based in clinical trials.
Right.
The kind of information I would like to see is a year from now. How effective has the vaccine been over this period of time? There's still, in my opinion, and the research I've done and cross-referencing, there's still some unknowns. The efficacy rate, that's a big thing. Well,
Yep.
It's 95% and it's 75%, 1 dose, 2 dose, and there are still some questions even amongst the researchers. Now, what concerns me on that is that doesn't get the headline.
Right.
What gets the headline is take the vaccine, get the vaccine. What's not getting the headlines are the questionable developments about the vaccine and the various, vaccine manufacturers. And I'll end with this. It's like, for instance, I did a little research on my own, and I had no idea that Cuba has 4 vaccines.
That's right.
And in doing that further research, I said, Cuba, that's the last place you'd think that they would be that sophisticated, but they're quite the contrary. They're very sophisticated.
Indeed.
And they're very well equipped. They have top professionals in the field, but that doesn't get, headline news. So I just think there's some things that just aren't, we're not getting the full story on this yet. And it may be because the story is still developing.
Yeah. So allow me to quickly establish the timeline. So on December 8th, a vaccine was rolled out in Britain. And on December 11th and December 18th, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration rolled out a vaccine, Pfizer and Moderna, in December. And so now it's available to health professionals and a few teachers, I heard. Mm-hmm. So does anybody know anything else? I haven't heard any other updates about the vaccine, but I know we have 2, correct?
Yes, that's as far as I know. Moderna and Pfizer, right, have both.
Johnson & Johnson just came out with saying that they're going to come out with they're going to be doing setting theirs out by the end of spring or something of that nature. So people are watching Johnson & Johnson also.
Right. And then there's this discrepancy about first it said you got to have 2 doses. Now,
right. Dose 1 and dose 2.
Well, if we do 2 doses, that means a lot of people won't get the first dose. So they're going to suspend the second dose for a little longer so that more people can get the first dose. Anyway, after a while, you start to wonder, Go ahead, Pat. You were going to.
No, I'm just, I'm thinking about. I'm staying quiet because I got kids. I got kids that still live here at home, 20-somethings, and they don't care. I mean, they hang out with their friends. They come back. The they believe in the conspiracy theory of young people like, oh, the Chinese gave it to us, or we're in warfare right now, or
Right.
I'm literally hearing these from my young people that is spread amongst their thing. It's, don't take the vaccine because it's meant to kill all blacks or all brown people, or I'm hearing all of these things, and you kind of say to yourself, okay, where really do we go from here? And then you ask me, you're going to ask me a question, I'm going to answer this. If I had the chance to get the vaccine today, which actually I do, I'd go get it. I'll do it. I would do it.
You would do it?
Yeah.
Why? What would drive your decision to do that?
Well, first of all, I started to learn from, the news is one thing, but when you have friends that's actually in the CDC, or you have friends who are doctors,
Right.
when you start seeing your doctor friends take it, you're saying to yourself, what? Is this thing good? It's like, listen, the only way this thing could really take you out is if you're allergic to it or something of that nature.
Right.
Like, otherwise than that, why not do something to help society? Because everyone who takes it, you're amongst you're amongst the ranks to say whether the efficacy goes up if you take it, and to see how you react to it. So yes, I would take it, even though I'm allergic to like penicillin and little things like that.
Me too.
Are you
Really?
allergic
Yeah.
to penicillin? I still, it's something like a protein shot or something of that nature, and so I would take it if I had the chance to take it.
No, I'm reading where in Norway there have been a number of deaths, and that people are dying. And I was not aware of this before I prepared for this conversation. So, but the question I would ask is, should the government have the right to enforce that people take the vaccine?
Yeah.
Or should your employer have the right to enforce you to take that vaccine?
Depending on the sector. If you're in a hospital facility and you're dealing with, people with COVID on a regular basis, I would be surprised if they're not enforcing or encouraging.
They are enforcing it.
Right.
But the question I ask is, should they have the
they?
right? Should the government have the right to say to you, Justin, you are a pastor, you are giving people communion bread and laying hands on people, sometimes even at church. And should they have the right to tell you must get the vaccine?
That's the tricky part. That comes with the teachers as well. A lot of our teachers are already preparing for when it's going to be mandated for them, since they're coming in contact with children on a daily basis.
Right.
I don't even know if I have the answer to that yet. I know I'm still weighing the pros and the cons. On the pro side, we're hearing, even though we've heard some negative impact, some people have died. They don't know if it's directly related.
Pretty negative impact right there.
That is right. Wow.
That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, that
right?
death thing, boy, changes your perspective in life.
Yeah.
Yet there's this thought where even if it doesn't work, even if it's not working, at least trying it, we don't really know if it works until people try it. So it's like, we can't just sit, or should we just sit? And if we are going to wait, like you said, Charles, for a year, who are those guinea pigs that we're watching for a year? Is that fair to them? There's just so many questions that come up. I'm not a big vaccine person, if you will. Like I don't like shots, period. Like I've never taken the flu shot and things like that.
You don't have the other vaccines, like for measles and mumps and rubella and all of that?
I do. I did what I was supposed to do,
Sound like a big vaccine person to me.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like if something's
Talking
not
all that
mandatory,
tough Tony talk here.
if it's not mandatory in order for me to do something, then I'm opting out. That's usually my stance. But at the same time, I don't want to hinder what could help us get out of this thing a little faster if my participation, would make an impact.
Well, I think the other part is human behavior. I read a couple of reports that said, some people think once they get the vaccine, they're fine. They rip off their masks, they go to parties, they do whatever. But science has shown that even when you get the vaccine, you can still spread the virus.
Exactly.
Wow, I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
they still wear masks. They still have to follow the same
Right.
protocol because you could give it to someone else. You could carry it, even though it may not affect you. You could carry it to someone else, even having had the vaccine.
You know, I like to follow conspiracy theories. I really do. I'm not saying I believe in all of them.
All right, let's
Uh-oh.
hear it. Let's hear it.
Listen. I love to go to Dallas. I've been to Dallas a couple of times. I like to stand on the X outside and say to myself, it's impossible for this guy to get 3 shots off from the book depository. I always say that. I stand there and say it's impossible to do that. You know, I think we were talking in the green room earlier, and we was talking about Henrietta Leck, and in Baltimore, where they used her cells to be able to cure people, but you know they how many people. Come on, in Baltimore, how many people in Alabama did they scoop up to get the right cells that they needed? You know, in Jamaica, they have this thing in the country they call if you shout out black card, a black card is coming, the kids will scatter. Where that came from was that there were doctors, white doctors, that would come to the country in there to experiment on them, and that was the word that they used for them to be able to scatter so that black card wouldn't come and get them. Well, that's not only in Jamaica or in the Caribbean, that was also here in the United States. So we always feel that they are using something to either break down the community, the syphilis epidemic that were injected in them. So when I hear about vaccines, even though I'm pro-vaccine, I still wonder,
That's real.
I still wonder what is it
But that's how can you not?
It's there. You think about that, and can I give you another personal thing that I've gone through? I think my family is sane. I think my wife's family is sane, and we have a son who has autism, but he came out passing the APGAR score. You know what I mean? And doing well. And then once we started giving him vaccines, then was started the degradation of his mental capabilities, and so or the needs came about after that. So even though I'm pro because I'm actually in this world seeing everything happen, I still look back and have second thoughts on what is it that vaccines can do to take your life or to impair your life. So I don't know if we want to call it 50-50, but I really want to get out this pandemic, and I think that me taking it would help with it.
Straw vote. How many, by raise of hands, how many of us would be willing to take the vaccine tomorrow?
Tonight.
I'll wait.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wait too.
I'm wait. I mean, it's kind of like.
And you're waiting on
Jesus
a year to see what happens to y'all.
waiting to see whether or not we'll grow a third eye in the middle of our head, Pat.
Absolutely.
Right.
But that's real though. There's some evidence that it can cause long-term. There could be some
soaking the coronavirus.
Exactly.
Right.
Real.
If you've gotten it, yeah. There's some.
So I have a
I
question.
think a lot of people are in a holding pattern now because they really want to see some solid evidence.
Yeah.
Because in some of the research I've done, some researchers have said, not just in this country, but in other countries, that it is possible to contract the virus 2 to 3 weeks after the vaccine.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's I think it's a mindset. I want to go back to human behavior and the fact that it is contagious. All the researchers are asking us to do is wear a mask, socially distant.
Right.
Limit your, except your home or your own bubble that you've created. We seem to not want to do that on a broad scale. We just don't want to do it. We don't, you don't have a right to tell me who I can visit. You don't have a right to tell me to wear a mask and whatever. And I think that this is part of the problem for the massive spread here in the United States. If you remember when this all started, back in January and early February, the curve was almost not recognizable on the
That's right.
Yeah.
and then it skyrocketed. Why? Because it is highly contagious, and now the new variants are even more contagious. And it's affecting people not because they don't have the virus so much. It's affecting people because they're not following procedure when you're in the middle of a contagious virus.
Same thing happened with HIV. I mean, the same thing happened with HIV. People, they said, oh, well, they're starting to come up with some cocktails and all, and people relaxed their vigilance. And before you knew it, the disease started spreading again.
Right.
But with this thing, the mask, even with the wearing of mask, I know that it curtails it, but there's still a level of vulnerability, especially now with the new variant that's out. That
Right.
you can look at somebody's picture and get it from the picture. It's
Yeah, it does seem like it's increased in terms of, I have to say that when COVID first started, people in the outside of my circle, I would hear the stories of them getting. Now, like this second wave, it's getting, the circle is getting a little
tighter,
too close. A little too close for comfort.
I counted 48 people that I know that died of
died. Oh, wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of
people. In a year's time.
Less than a year's time. That's right.
That's a lot.
Have we hit the 400,000 mark for total deaths?
410,000.
Yes, exceeded, unfortunately. And it's continuing to grow.
Yeah.
But I still hear a voice from Mar-a-Lago saying, well, it's going to disappear.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, let him say it from over there. Now we don't want.
We know what disappeared.
Yep. I want to throw this out because we had the same situation with political and voting, whether we should vote or not. We literally had to push to say Christians, it's okay to vote. There is a Christian sector out there that's saying that we should not take the virus, especially that the virus came on the U.S. representative table, coming under 6666.
Vaccine?
The vaccine.
Oh, really? Was it really 666?
Well, they added the other 6, which counted them out. But of course, if you're a zealot and you see any 6s anywhere near what it is, they believe that this is something that's a part of the mark of the beast that's not allowing us to buy or sell, which is why they're closing down all these different places because, so they have all these conspiracy theories that's connected to this vaccine and how it's supposed to kill certain amount of people so that we could bring the level of breathing back in the world. That I know you all are looking at me like I'm absolutely crazy, but that's really what's out there now. And so, and if you think about it, I want to flip it this way. Notice that a lot of white people are getting the vaccine, so it makes us say what's white is right. And you don't see a lot of it coming into our neighborhoods. I'm seeing that. I think I was looking up that in Pennsylvania alone, 1.2 of white Pennsylvanians have been vaccinated, when there's only 0.3 of black Pennsylvanians that have been. Go ahead.
But what is that based on? Is that based on blacks just not being interested in taking or access?
I think both. Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah, we just don't want to be worked on. We don't want to say to send this batch over here to the south side and send this one over here to the north side.
But yet we're the population that's most affected by the virus. Like, so if, I understand it's like a catch-22. We're talking about the disparities in numbers with our people who are dying from the disease versus other races. Yet we're still the smallest in terms of wanting to take the vaccine, which they think could help bring those numbers down. So are we ignoring a possible solution that could help our community?
Well, 60% of this group said that they wouldn't take the vaccine. Go ahead, Justin.
All right.
I'm waiting. I'm not totally out.
Yeah.
So Dr. Anthony Fauci urged Black Americans to take the vaccine, to trust the process, because a Black woman was at the helm of developing it. Yeah. So what do we know about this Black woman?
Well, she's Black and she's a woman.
And if that's the reason why we need to do it, in Long Island, the first person that took the vaccine was a
Black nurse.
A Black nurse that was out here. Yeah. Here in D.C. was one of our Adventist guys that took it out, I think, at Howard University, and made a big thing about it. They want us to be able to push forward to get this vaccine because they know we are afraid of it. Mm-hmm. When you think of growing up in Brooklyn, New York, and recognizing that New York was the hot spot of this some months ago, that people remember in New York, in some of these cities, people live on top of each other. and
Yeah.
you're thinking you're opening the same door, everyone's opening the same
It's just
door,
hovering right in the hall.
apartment. Yeah, it's just in the hallways as
Mhm.
you're walking through, and you're kind of saying to yourself, okay, you know, right now even our vernacular has changed. Where if somebody passes away of they're 99 years old and they pass away, the first question we ask is it from COVID?
Yeah.
And is it an embarrassment to get COVID? Is it an embarrassment to, you know, I think what we have to do is to get our mindset together to understand what this thing actually is, even before we take the vaccination. Because if I take the vaccination, I go out there hanging out without my mask and hanging out with a bunch of people and baptizing people, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Has to be a
There-
combined.
there's also a train of thought that still bugs me, you know, because especially in America, we always look for a quick fix,
Yep.
I
you
was
know,
gonna say.
drive through doctor office kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, give me a pill, you know, I don't care.
You want
There
fries
is-
with that penicillin?
Right.
They're, in my opinion, and I'm not anti-vaccine. I'm just cautious at this point.
Right.
And I'm looking and reading and cross-referencing because there's news in Europe and other countries that we're not getting here. And we need to see that news about what's working, what's not working. The other thing that annoys me is that there's more headline and stories about whether you should get the vaccine, if it's effective. No one's talking about taking care of yourself, period.
Sure.
Get off the Twinkies.
Okay. Something else. Go to something else, man. I like.
All right, get off the chocolate cake, okay?
Okay,
Oh, did I hit
Still stepping on
the
toes.
point, but the point is, you know, we can do a lot to boost our immune system
Mhm.
just by eating well,
Yep.
Yeah.
resting, you know, and you've got people that are super healthy. You know, some people say, well, you know, my cousin was 40 years old, he was healthy, he was an athlete, and whatever, he got COVID and he died. Okay, well, there's some other circumstances around that. People that have preconditions could be affected differently than someone who has a different health profile.
Right.
So I think there needs to be more talk about, as much talk about the vaccine, there should be as much talk about living a healthier lifestyle.
Sure.
Yeah, the virus is a beast. I mean, it affects people differently, and we still don't know exactly what it can do. So we need to be careful and do what we can to maintain our health and do what we can preventatively. And so, yeah, I'm still on the fence about the vaccine, but I'm all for everyone being healthy and thriving.
Yeah.
Well, here's the next thing. When you get COVID, even though you test not negative from the COVID virus, it still has done a toll on your body that it still takes time for it to even recover from what I mean, that thing eat at your lungs first, and you know, it goes to, you know, it just attacks.
Yeah.
And I think we spend a whole lot. Listen, when we first began this, they said blacks couldn't get it. Do you remember that?
I remember that.
Oh
I
yeah.
heard that.
That lasted about a week.
Yeah, right. Oh, you better believe it. You started seeing people just drop around you. You know, they said blacks couldn't get it. They say, you know,
Children couldn't get it.
They said children couldn't get it. They said Africans couldn't get it. When I say blacks, I mean I know they said the African, you know, couldn't get it. Then you start to see people drop like flies. I mean, you watch the you know, you watch CNN, you can watch Fox, you watch anything you want to watch on it. You see the death toll start to rise, and you recognize we have lost more people in all of the wars that we have had.
Crazy.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I say to take it and take the risk at it. Can I just say one more thing about this? I remember I hated at 16, 17 years old, I hated wearing seatbelts. You know, I remember growing up when we didn't have to wear seatbelts. I mean, it could be like 11 of us in the back of the car. Yeah, I said it. 11
Really,
of us.
Pat? Really?
Yes.
Wow. How long ago was that again?
Oh boy, here we go. Tally, you need to help me out with this, girl. Y'all need to help
We see
me
the gray in your beard, though. We see it. We see the gray.
I could remember, matter of fact, I could even remember sitting half on my father's lap while he was driving, and it wasn't a problem doing that. Now, federal comes out, because I'm going back to your first question, Tally. Federal comes out and says everybody has to wear
seatbelt.
There's a seatbelt law out there. I remember now everybody's strapped in, including the kids in the back.
Yeah.
You know,
you're gonna get fined if you don't.
Yep.
well, you could wear it as the driver at first, And then, but the kids in the back didn't
Yeah,
have
they
to
don't
wear
have
it.
to.
And now
Yeah.
everybody has to wear seatbelts. The point I'm saying is that it's safety for us, right? But yet we know people who have died because they couldn't get out of their seatbelt. So, you know, you look at the vaccine on both ends and say to yourself, okay, it can kill people on one end. But when you look at the efficacy rate of wearing your seatbelt, then now you have to say to yourself, okay, I'd rather go on that end. That is the
Yeah.
only reason why I've chosen that. If I had the chance to go, well, I do have the chance to go and take the vaccine. I want to run ahead and go ahead and do that. My only problem is that my nose might get bigger. I have no clue what would happen to me next after that.
I guess
You might
you're
lose some
trying.
performance abilities. What? Huh?
Uh-oh.
If that happens, we're gonna go with it.
Uh-oh.
Let's just go with it because I feel
That's
it.
the part they won't
Well,
share.
now,
with
now
you.
here's the dangerous. Here's the thing. I learned this. Someone called me on air and talked about it. You realize that you can't sue vaccine companies.
Right,
Mm.
right.
There's something called the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act of 1986 that was introduced to prevent people from suing medical companies, pharmaceutical companies for vaccines, because it was starting to create a chilling effect on these companies. They were stopping making vaccines, and the government said, look, we need these vaccines, so we need to indemnify these companies from these lawsuits. And so if you take the vaccine and you grow a third arm or you start glowing in the dark,
Come back to us.
Third
you
leg.
can't sue the vaccine company.
Yep.
So these vaccines favor the pharmaceutical companies. You know,
Is it like when you go bungee jumping and you have to sign?
No, it ain't even no signing. You know, look, you get the vaccine, and if something happens, then that's just you know tough noogies. And that's something that now they do have a so-called compensation program. The idea being that if they find something went wrong, there's a limited amount that you might be able to get, but it's government mandated. You cannot sue the vaccine companies.
Yeah, I gotta ask y'all something. Any of y'all got this thing on your arm?
Oh yeah,
Vaccines?
From the
how
old
you
vaccine,
know
yeah.
who was born 1970 and below.
yeah,
That's how
yeah.
you know it. If you look
Oh.
at everyone's arm, I
That
know
little
I
that little round spot there.
a little
Yeah,
round spot on your
Really?
arm. Yeah.
yeah.
Everybody who has that. Everybody who go ahead. Everybody who has that, you know that they got the. I think it's a smallpox.
Yeah.
Everybody had to take.
No, I think it was. I think it was it was measles, mumps, rubella, measles, mumps, chickenpox.
Was it? All I know, it left a mark on.
It
your
left a mark, a
arm.
little
And
kind
anyone
of.
you see at the beach or you see them in their tank top, you see that, you know.
You know what
that
their
they're
age
You know
is.
they call that the mark of the beast.
Oh Lord, here we go. Here we go.
But no,
it's there. Mhm.
But no, even with you know, I jokingly said the mark of the beast, but you know, there have been a lot even in our faith community who have felt that, you know, this is a spiritual matter. You know, that, you know, doing this is you altering your DNA. You know, that those are those things, altering your DNA, which is altering this body that God has given you.
Right.
Whereas science is telling us that it doesn't alter your DNA. It's just releasing a protein that fights off the COVID. So it's like we have to do our due diligence and finding out what is accurate and what is just someone's fear that they've put into an article and put on Facebook and shared it on social media. But yet, I've been in discussions where there were doctors who were disagreeing on its efficacy and whether. So it's like even scientists, even the science, you know, people are saying trust the science. You guys heard that a lot. Trust the science. That's like the tagline for TikTok. But yet I'm listening to the scientists and even they don't agree. So that's what's giving me pause. Like if they could all be relatively on the same page with this, I think I would be a little bit more confident.
When you take the vaccine, you might really grow some paws.
They've been working on these. They've been working on these vaccines for a long
For years.
Yes,
Yeah.
Like
that's
a
what they
decade,
say.
right?
It's not new.
That's why when we started, you hear a lot of people say, "Oh, they just came out with it right around the corner." They've always been working on it. That is their job to work on it all the time. It's just how quick the FDA approves it. You know, it's just how quick it comes out. I'm going to throw another spin on this, gang. That that people are making money off of these vaccines.
I
course,
of
I was
course.
just going to say, what about the industrial complex of this?
Yeah, and that's
Right.
You
why
know,
people. Yeah.
anytime man puts his hand on something that could make a lot of money,
Mhm.
you know, I mean, we need to know, we really need someone to tell us what this vaccine is made of. Because those that are saying that, oh, don't take the vaccine, oh, it's a spiritual problem, you know, those are the same people that run to CVS
Hmm.
and get a bottle of Advil
Anything, yeah.
or aspirin, and they'll take that. You know, I got a headache, I'll take that.
Yeah, they're the same with shooting Botox in their face, and
Right.
No,
yeah.
it's true.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah.
But what I learned, and I was never that great at science, but from listening, this messenger RNA, as it's called,
Yeah.
they put it into you, it attacks, it stands ready so that when COVID comes, it releases these proteins, and then it kind of dissolves itself, like, because there was some fear that it would just stay in your body indefinitely. But science is saying no, after it's done its job, it kind of just breaks apart and goes away. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that, and it's like, how many people don't know that? How much of this education is not being shared? But yet on the other side of it, it's, you get this vaccine, you're still social distancing, you're still wearing your mask. So the only real way to tell if it works is if you expose the person to COVID, which is a risk you don't want to take, because what if that takes them out because it's not working? So it's like,
That's why I
weigh
say
it?
it's still a little too early. I mean, if I've talked to individuals says I'm going to take the vaccine, and I say, good. I mean, that's your choice. It's your right to do it, and it, maybe for you it is a good thing to do, but for me, I just don't trust a lot of what we're hearing until I can get some verification, any kind of verification. I mean, people love Dr. Fauci, and I have no reason to believe that he is not a professional and knows what he's doing. But I want to ask the question of the vaccine makers, these large, big pharma. I want someone to check to see how reliable they are. There've already been reported bad batches of vaccine.
Really?
Yes.
I
And
didn't
what if
know
you
that.
what if you get a shot of the bad batch?
Mm.
There are just too many loose ends with this. That's all I'm saying. And we're talking, lives in the balance here.
It should be noted that there are, I mean, listen to this list. There's a diphtheria vaccine, a whooping cough vaccine, measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. That's the one you see on your arm there, Pat.
TB.
Polio, hepatitis, hemophilia, varicella, rotavirus, pneumococcal, flu, human papilloma, and meningococcal vaccine. There are vaccines all over the place.
Adventist vaccines, Christianity vaccines.
I mean, the thing is that we are in a universe of vaccines, and the question becomes whether or not it is in the prevailing interest of government to say that in order for you to participate in this government and this is constitutional, to protect the public welfare,
That's right.
does the government have the right to tell you that you have to have this vaccine?
Do we have
That's-
the right to tell a member that they can't come to church unless
Unless they're vaccinated?
Do
Yeah,
we have the right
they
to
do.
tell them that do we test them before they walk in to our churches? Come on, I mean,
Right.
this thing could take us from one end to the
Oh.
other.
In my opinion, we're just seeing the beginning. I mean, there's some countries that when you get off the plane, you cannot, well, first of all, you can't get on the plane unless you have some verification or certificate that you have and that your temperature was taken and you were given a COVID test.
Right.
And then landing in other countries, a lot of countries are still requiring people to vaccine for quarantine quarantine for 2 weeks.
You go somewhere for a vacation and you spend it in a hotel and then you get back and go home.
Yeah. So I just think there are a lot of loose ends here, and I'm not trying to discourage people from not taking the vaccine. My personal feeling right now, and my family feels the same way, is that be careful, stay healthy, follow the rules, and watch and see. Maybe in 6 months, we can all say, hey, this thing is really working. We see the science, we see the numbers. I'm going to go get a vaccine.
I need to upset this basket for a second, though.
All right, go ahead.
I see, and I'm not doing this to get a great argument. I really believe this. I believe that the way the government is moving now, Biden, who I voted for, I'll put it out there, it's loosening up or making it easier for the blue laws to be in effect, and the I think it makes it easier for them to put the laws on the table now as they connect them all together. Yes, Tally, I voted for Biden.
What you talking about, Willis? I mean, how does the blue laws get into this one?
And I'll tell you how because they normally, when they put laws together, when he gets up and says everybody has to wear a mask in federal places and everyone has to, this is federal mandated type things that
okay.
Usually when they pass those things on the table, they pass a lot of other stuff that we don't know that they're passing.
Exactly.
So we're so happy with passing this rule or this law right here that we don't. I'll give you another example of it. When you look in when you're driving in Pennsylvania, you got guys riding motorcycles, no helmet on, right? And you say to yourself, that doesn't make sense. I mean, if he falls off that motorcycle and hits his head, that's it. You're done.
Oh,
right?
he's road pizza.
Yeah. Road pizza, right? Yet they got seatbelt laws. Yet you're now mandating from a federal standpoint what people ought to do. So if they're telling us that we have to wear a mask, right? If they're saying to us that we have to be vaccinated, and I'm going long shot on this, couldn't they tell us that Sabbath is now, worship on this day? Couldn't they tell us that that we couldn't buy or sell or whatever unless we took the vaccination and we walk around with a card in our hand?
But the difference to me is that this is a contagious thing. This is something that if you don't follow these protocols, you could kill people. Going to church on a particular particular day of the week does not have direct impact on someone's life.
But it does on economy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just saying.
No, I mean,
I'm not trying to.
Right.
I agree with you that it doesn't. But if you think of what happened at Ruby Ridge, when you think about what happened at Waco, and all this is the same type of thing that they were upset at, that caused them to be in arms with the government. So am I saying that I could understand these Trump people when I can understand some people who say to themselves, I'm not going to wear the mask or I'm not going to get vaccinated? Now we say to ourselves, you're taking down the country. Because if I were there to see some of those Adventists and some of those Republicans and some of those people who were at the Capitol building, if I was there, I would protect myself at all costs, because I think they're the ones that's bringing down the government, while they think we're the ones that's bringing down the government. So I think they look at us and say, or people we could look at each other and say, I'm talking about me and Tally could look at the three of y'all and say, y'all bringing this whole thing down by not wanting to be vaccinated. We're even split where we are right here. So I just brought in that point to say it's a possibility.
I see.
These things come on the table. That's all I'm saying. Tally, I'm as smart as you are too,
I read too. I can read too. No, but I think this discussion brings up a lot of different points for different people, and that's the purpose of this. We're just discussing some of the thoughts, fleshing out some of the thoughts that some people are having and talking about. But of course, you can't go based on what I have to say. You can't go based on what any of the upsetters have to say. You have to do your own research. We realize that, even at the conference, we realize this isn't something we can even recommend. This is a personal choice. You doing your own personal research, developing your own comfort level with what you find. But I do say educate yourself. Don't sit and wait for somebody to say green light.
Go to the physician. That's what Jesus said. If Jesus was here, he would take the vaccine.
Really?
That's
gonna be the next series of commercials we see.
But Tasha, on that same vein, I want to encourage people not just to look on YouTube, but to look for credible sources.
Yes.
You can't just look anywhere because there's a lot of things out there. So can we give some suggestions as to where they can go to look to find accurate, credible information?
Yeah, Allegheny East, visit AEC.
Cut it out. No, you're joking, but we do on our COVID page on our website, we do have links to very reputable sources
Right.
who, can we say who? World Health Organization, CDC, all of those things for the individual states that make up our conference. But we'll do our part to also put on our page, our Upcast, Upset podcast page, some of the resources that we recommend that you all check out. Don't just sit by and let people feed you information. Do your research from, as Justin said, from reputable sources, and make a decision that works for you and your family.
Upsetters, I watch Al Jazeera. I watch BBC. I watch
RT.
Fox. I don't watch RT. Do you watch RT?
Yeah.
What is RT?
Yeah,
Russian television.
Russian television.
Wow.
I thought, no, but the reason why I watch all of them now is because it gives me a perspective of what they're not saying.
Yeah.
Not what they're saying, but what it is that they're not saying. And I'm heavy on CDC. I'm heavy on the WHO because that's now the world, right? And NIH. I look at those three and kind of figure out what is it that's really happening. I kind of look at the economic sector also to see where the booms are happening. Like in the 90s, we had the .com booms and we had all that. Now it's the healthcare boom. So really, there's a lot of finances that's involved when it comes to this vaccine. Was it planned? Listen, let me upset it.
Pandemic.
Right? Was it a pandemic? Was it something? Look, when people profited off of the Twin Towers falling. Right. They have these things in the stock market called puts, right? That you can make money on the decline of a stock. So you have to ask yourself these type of questions: who benefited from the loss of this? And
all that's running in the background.
I mean,
all of that's running in the background.
I kind of look at all of it.
And that's wise. It's wise to do that. And I know folks say, well, I don't have time. I got to work. I got to do whatever. But you know what? Instead of a Netflix night, do some research because there's a lot going on that we're not seeing. I mean, there are times when there is a breaking story in the United States. I listen to the BBC's reporting of that story. And you'll be surprised at how many details that are not reported on mainstream media in this country.
That's right.
Because in my opinion, mainstream media is bought and sold by corporations. That's right. So you know as well as I do that the news is filtered 3 and 4 times before it gets our ear.
Absolutely.
So the question I ask is, what are you filtering out? Could it be truth that you're filtering out because it goes against some of your advertisers?
The propaganda.
That's why you've got a lot more independent news podcasts cropping up now. People that podcasts are supported by listeners and not supported by corporations.
Right.
So they can tell the truth without any repercussions. There have been journalists that have been fired for telling the truth.
Truth is always popular.
Yeah, there's always that angle that we ought to be careful to just do that extra research. I definitely say that. So bottom line for me, I'm not telling you not to take the vaccine or to take the vaccine. I'm just saying be educated, be aware, ask questions, maybe start with your own physician, and then make your decisions that's best for you.
Hey,
Absolutely.
On our podcast page, I think it would be great if we put some of these resources where you could find this information, so that everybody could, be able to gather it. And I know we do have it on Allegheny East page, for everyone.
We're going to have it on the Upset podcast page.
Yeah.
So anything that we talk about, that we reference, we'll put it on that page so you can find it. And, you've sat here and listened and watched us talk about how we feel. Well, we want to hear what you have to say about these subjects too.
Right.
So we invite you to email us your thoughts at upset@aecsda.com. What, are you taking the vaccine? What are your pros and cons? Why did you decide to do it? Why didn't you decide? Share it with us, and we'll share some of your comments in our next episode. Are you taking the vaccine or nah? All right, guys, it's been another great discussion. I don't think we upset the basket too much. Not today.
Yeah, you'll know when you check the email.
Yeah.
One of the surest signs that you should take the vaccine is hearing. I mean, you will be if you notice that you're listening and you're hearing, and all of a sudden you can't hear anymore, then you.
You know what? At least this time he did it on his own. You know, it's strange.
Go take it, Tally. Go take it.
Our resident comedian.
And we're just gonna check back in a little later on this topic with the five of us to see what we ended up doing in a month.
Oh yeah.
That'd be interesting to see. All right, guys, we thank you again for tuning in to the Upset Podcast, where we're setting you up for something better, just another way of thinking. We appreciate you joining the dialogue, and we'll see you next episode.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.